June! June! Get ready, you're going to your auntie's.
I don't want to go to my auntie's.
You're only going to be there a few hours.
No, I don't want to go there because my cousin always messes with me.
Tell his mama.
Lejeune, Mind, Health, and Wellness with Lejeune. We are back for 2025. Have an amazing guest. Dereka Ross is a licensed mental health therapist, author, poet, mother. She is the founder of Remedy Holistic Services LLC. She works with clients in the area of navigating self identity, depression, complex trauma, burnt out, and self reflection, as well as giving grace. Welcome. How are you, ma'am?
I am very well, and thank you so much for taking the time to consider me for your podcast. It's an honor to be here today.
Well, I am honored to have you because you are someone who wears many hats, and I feel so many women, as well as some men, can relate to everything you're going through as a parent, as a business owner, as a therapist, all the hats that you wear. A lot of individuals could definitely use some input from you. So, can you give a background on yourself?
Yes, absolutely. So my journey initially started really in ministry. That's where my journey started. And I started preaching during that time, went to seminary during that time. And around the third year of my seminary journey, I realized I was like, I think I want to do something outside of the walls of the church. And that was the shift that took place. And of course, my dad always taught me that you just give up on something. You always finish what you start. So I completed my seminary degree and felt like I had zero direction at that point in time. I'm like, what am I going to do with this master's degree and also navigate everything else? And so I shifted from retail into counseling or advising for a company that mostly worked with colleges and things of that nature. And it was there that I started realizing that I had a knack for therapy, and decided to attend Loyola University. And I was hesitant about that because we had a whole process where I had to engage in statistics and things like that. And I'm like, math is not my thing. How am I going to do this? So I had literally my colleagues quizzing me and things like that, teaching me things, going back to algebra, all of that. And I ended up passing my test for that and then got into the program. And here I am today as a therapist. I've been doing therapy now for almost 7 years independently. And I just love the work so much. A lot of my motivation towards therapy is really Black women. They're like the reason why I do therapy. And so, it's just been moving from there. But what I've also recognized, and this is something that going to a PWI, they don't really teach you this, but it's really important to be able to incorporate critical race theory into therapy. And I learned that was something I had to learn as a therapist. And so I always tell my Black, my brown, and Indigenous clients that before we can even get to the heart of self-care, we first have to deal with the systemic structures that are in the way or prevent us from being able to engage with that self-care. So I really start with that. Then I'm also incorporating person-centered therapy. as well as cognitive behavioral therapy, because, a lot of times the mind is in conflict with whatever our heart is feeling. So we have to make that distinction in therapy too. So there's that. And then, of course, trauma informed care is also a part of my process. And so with that, I use somatic therapy to see like what internal organs are being impacted as a result of the things that I'm experiencing or feeling. And that has been really powerful. So in a full circle moment, it's almost as if like my ministry now has turned into therapy instead. And that has been really a huge blessing, a humbling blessing for me.
I like how you mentioned that because I know now a lot of therapists are incorporating Christianity into their therapy process because Christianity, spirituality plays a huge part on one's mental health, as well as emotional health, as well as physical health, as well as nutritional health. It all plays a part. For you, what was when you made that transition into therapy? Was it a thought process of connecting the spiritual side, the Christianity side, with the mental health side? Or did you just know I'm already doing it, but it wasn't a thought process because you just saw it was in alignment?
That's a good question. In all honesty, um, just to, I guess, make it as plain as possible, therapy is spiritual work. A lot of times people will say things like they look at it as like kind of mind heart work. And it is that. But when we think about the word psyche in general, which is derived from like psychology, psyche itself means spirit. Like that's something that people don't talk about because now we talk about psychology being like this soft science. So we don't look at it as a spiritual thing. But I always tell people anytime that you go inward, it's spiritual, you know? And so for me, that was the alignment there because one of the things that Loyola stressed too is that we need to focus on cura personalis. That means we want to heal the whole person. And the whole person is more than just your mind. It's more than just your heart. It's more than your physical self. It's also your spiritual self too. Although I do, I was raised in the Christian tradition, I work with anyone, regardless of their spiritual background, and so I try to let them know, because I've even had atheists work with me, but I let them know that this is spiritual work. Like, because I know that I always tell people I'm not for everybody. I may not be for everybody, but we cannot negate that therapy is spiritual work. If you don't fall in alignment with that, then I would be more than happy to find the right therapist for you so that you can get what you need. But if you're going to work with me, we have to first respect that that is part of the process, that we're going to have to go in where we're going to have to touch some things. We're going to have to touch some old wounds. And if you have that willingness to do the work, then I'm here with you throughout that, and I'll do the work that's necessary in order to meet you in that. So that's been like the most powerful thing. And if people do have more of a Christian mindset and they want to explore some of their spiritual trauma around that, or spiritual confusion in general around their Christianity, I've also been able to work with that through that. So it's been a joy to be able to do that, but it's also been good to not be in a box in the way that I do therapy, which has been helpful too.
And I think that's definitely good because I've worked with therapists in the past where literally, and you could tell they're new therapists because off the bat, they're like, if you say that you want to hurt someone, you want to hurt yourself, all this different things, I have to report it. Of course, sometimes you go in therapy, it doesn't always mean that you really want to hurt somebody. It's just anger that comes up for you where you're released and okay, oh my God, this person really drives me crazy. I want to just knock them out. It doesn't mean, okay, I'm really going to go knock them out. And I think, it is a lot of fear in the Black, brown community when it comes to that. If you're hearing that, you're like, well, how are they going to help me with my anger issues? Because these people are really pissing me off and I don't know what to do. Because you're saying if I say that, you're going to report me and I could be arrested.
Right. Yeah, that's the slippery slope when it comes to therapy. I always tell people that there's loopholes. Within the confidentiality of therapy. What I do is I will introduce that, in therapy when I first start with someone. So basically, when I start with somebody, I typically will tell them, hey, this is who I am. These are my credentials. This is how long I've been working in the field. And then I talk to them about suicidal ideations or homicidal ideations. I want to normalize that because we all have them. We all have suicidal ideations at times or a homicidal ideation at times.
I like how you said that because I don't think that has been given a word before. I love that.
I do. I literally say, my partner, I tease my partner about this sometimes when I say I have aggressive fantasies. Okay. And I know at times I do. Look, don't throw me out of the window because I said that on the podcast, but I feel like those are normal things that we do get angry and we do get upset. It doesn't necessarily want to act on that. So I always tell clients when I'm first working with them that I'm concerned if you have a method or a plan. That's what I'm concerned about. Okay. And I'm looking at whether this is mild, moderate, or severe. Okay. So if it's one of those things where it's like a fly by night, it crosses my mind every now and then, that's not really a cause of concern for me. It's when it's like, I have a gun and I'm going to kill this person on Tuesday. That's when that's a problem. Right. Or I'm going to take these pills on Wednesday. Those are the things that are more concerning for me that do warrant for me to have actionable steps towards that. And I let people know that in advance before they start divulging information. And that's why I always tell people I'm a disclaimer kind of person. So I definitely want to get to the heart of what you're saying. But before we do that, let me just introduce myself. Let me tell you what I've done and how long I've been doing it. We'll get into the suicidal and homicidal ideations. And then they get to decide. That's the part. They get to decide as to whether they want to divulge or if they want to, work with me at all. Like, I feel like that introduction is necessary because just because I have I'm equipped to be able to work with you doesn't necessarily mean that we're a good fit. Like, I want to make sure that I'm always a good fit with the person and that they're also a good fit for me. And that's a crossroads as a therapist that you have to be honest with yourself about and use wisdom around that too as well.
I love that you said that because, it's kind of like when people find a doctor or a therapist, they want to stick with them. And the therapist or the doctor is not really working in their best interest, but they have that rapport already. They don't want to go look for anybody else. And I think, I get people all the time because me working as a health coach, I get people all the time. They will tell me about their doctor. My doctor is not listening to me. My doctor is not addressing the things that need to be addressed. Okay, find another doctor, call your insurance, and your insurance will provide you with a list of doctors. Absolutely. But I think it's that fear of if I find somebody else, I could potentially be judged on everything that's going on because people are giving their personal information to you as a therapist. For you, how do you ease their minds with coming to you? Because it's that fear of, and I like how you refer because most therapists don't refer. They're like, okay, we're not a good fit. You have to find somebody else.
Yeah. I think it comes from, and to your point, we don't want to do harm, right? That's one of the things that we're taught as therapists. It's not like an oath that we take, but it's an understanding that we take that we don't want to do any harm to our client. Like, our job as therapists are to keep you safe. So those are things that I'm always considering when I'm working with someone. You know, am I a perfect therapist? Absolutely not. I'm flawed. I have issues. I have problems just like everyone else. But I think that it comes to a crossroads. And I guess this is where the self-identity piece kind of comes in, is where you have to recognize where you are limited. That's something that I've come to a conclusion about within the last couple of years as being a therapist. I thought that I needed to have all the answers. I thought that I had to be the it girl. I thought that I had to be this wounded healer that helps people navigate through everything. And whoever comes into my space, I need to figure it out. And what I'm recognizing is that limitations, or you not having a capacity to do something, doesn't necessarily mean that it's a marker of your intelligence or not. And those were things that I had to accept. Like, I had to accept that just because you can't help this person doesn't mean that you're not a good therapist. It just means that they may need someone else that's better equipped. And so for me, I feel like it's a huge disservice. And maybe this is just me, but I can't work with someone knowing that they need more and I can't give it. Like, I just can't do that. And so if I hit crossroads with my client where I'm working with you, particularly like within, because I usually start seeing shifts in my clients anywhere between 1 to 3 months, I start to see their changes. If I don't see that, we're having a conversation about that and about my approach. Like, am I doing the things that are necessary? How do you think that therapy is going right now? What do you see as therapy is going? And then I will share with them what I see. And what could be helpful maybe for them, you know, and maybe if referring out is necessary, you know, but you have to be brave enough. Doesn't mean that you're not afraid to have the conversation, but you have to be brave enough to be able to be honest with yourself and to them, to say that, hey, this is where we're at. And what do we want to do about that now? But yes, I don't want anyone to seek out therapy, especially given the history of what Black people have endured in the medical field. I don't ever want to just leave you abandoned. It's kind of like, you know, there's already a stigma there. So what I wanted to do is be able to create something where you have someone to go to, if possible. And so that's just how I approach things when it comes to that.
So, if you see a client experiencing setbacks, you see the progress, but now you're starting to see the decline in that. How do you address that as a therapist? Do you look at yourself as if, okay, what's going on here? Because you were doing so great. How did we end up back here? Or do you just look at it as, okay, something is off that this client is not addressing in these sessions with me?
Mm. Yeah, I feel like there's a flow. Like some of the clients, a lot of the clients that I work with, I've worked with for years now. Like there's one that I was just talking to last Friday, and I'm like, I think we're coming up on 2 years now. And she's like, yeah, are you sure? I was like, I think so. And I'm like looking and I'm like going back on the notes and I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah, we are. Like, so I obviously working with somebody for that period of time, you're going to see all kinds of things that take place. What I always want to make sure is that I feel like the way that you keep things fresh and renewed in like your friendships or even in your romantic relationships or even in your family, they apply also to your client. You can't use the same interventions with the same person you've been working with. Like I always look at myself too, because I'm part of this experience. So there are times that if I see that a client isn't doing the work, I will challenge you because that's my job as your therapist to be honest with you if I see that you're not putting the time and efforts in. But I will also consider, where do I fit in this? What interventions have I not given yet? Are there any things that I could do better? And I think that's why the conversation, the revolving door of being like, well, how is therapy going? Like I ask my clients that several times throughout the year. I don't know if other people do that, but I do that because I never charge myself as, because I've been doing this for so long, that I am like the it girl and knowing everything about therapy. Like I feel like I learn something new all the time. You know, so I take that seriously, and I treat every person that I deal with in a very intricate way. So if I see that there's a setback, I want to know like what's going on in your personal life, like what's happening to prevent you from being able to move forward like we were doing before, or is there something that you need more of? And that's why I went into somatic therapy, because I started learning that people need more than just talking about head and heart stuff, Dereka. Like cognitive behavioral therapy is great, but what other modalities are you going to dip into? Because the world is shifting and people need more. And so when that happens, then you have to, the beauty of therapy is that we have to take all these continuing education credits. So I just recently started taking a course. It started in September and it's going to be lasting all the way into December, where it's just somatic therapy. And now I'm talking to people about like their internal organs or the vagus nerve or how the brain operates. Like I'm getting more intricate in neuroscience because I see that these are needs for people, that people don't just want to do things the same way. They want to know why you're worth them working with and why they need to spend money to be able to see you, you know? And so I want people's money to be valued and their time to be valued. So I take a lot of time reading and studying, and like, I know, you know, that can be difficult sometimes, you know, but if you care about what you do, you put the best in it. And if I know my client is, then you're going to get 100% from me too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's major because I worked with a sleep coach because I wasn't sleeping well. I kept waking up. And she started talking about the vagus nerve because I was in so many car accidents.
Mm,
And she was like, your lymphatic and your nervous system are out of whack, which is impacting your sleep. Never thought about that. Never thought that, what? How is that impacting my sleep? And I think that's important, especially when it comes to mental health. You're
so
dealing with people who may be traumatized and it's impacting them.
absolutely. It's exactly that, you know, and so I have to consider that. So yeah, that means that, do you have to keep learning? Yes. Like that's what therapy is. It's a commitment to being a lifelong student.
Yeah.
And that is something that I've committed myself to. And it's weird because I remember like when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life. And after I finished seminary and I was like getting into the program at Loyola, I was like, God, like if I can get through this program, I promise you I will give the best of myself to this. And I remember like just some of the challenges I came up with throughout the process, you know, even failed my very first nationals exam, you know, that was like, missed it by 2 points. So I'll tell you, the walk of shame was real for me. I'm like, am I supposed to be doing this? I went through all this. And you know, a lot of rejection, it felt like at the time. But it's like, if you're meant and you're called to do something, which I do believe that this is a calling for me, then you just press your way and you just do it the best way that you know how, you know. And so that's what I do. And I hope that my clients feel that too.
So, speaking of that, you deal with so many different people, so many different personalities. How do you find relief for yourself? Because, sometimes we take on people's stuff and we're like, oh my God, this person is dealing with this. And at any point or currently, do you have that fix it mentality? Or did you decide at one point, you know what? I can't fix it. I can only give them the steps.
Yeah. Yeah, that was important. That was a lesson I would say that I learned in real time last year.
Mm,
Um, Last year, and this is again, you know, this is a full disclosure moment. Last year, I had ran into some health issues, which I was very surprised about because I spend a lot of time like, you know, trying to be as healthy as I can. I go to the gym, you know, I work out. And, you know, I try to make that a regimen that I engage with at least like anywhere between 2 to 3 times a week, if not more, And so I thought I was just doing all of the things. And when I got sick and, I was dealing with some issues with like some chest pains, and I had ended up collapsing at a concert that I went to. And I was just like having a good time, and all of a sudden I did. And it was because of heat. I was having a lot of challenges with like heat exhaustion and things like that. And I started to realize in that moment when I collapsed, I remember just kind of looking up, and you're seeing all these lights being in this concert area, and like, my partner's trying to get help for me, and like I'm just like, I remember saying in my mind, like, because I felt like I couldn't move, and I was like, God, is this really like, this is going to be the end of my life? Like, I'm going to be done here, like at this concert, like that's what my life is going to be. And after that happened, I realized that I had been spending so much time helping clients to be the best version of themselves. I had spent so much time giving them all the interventions that I could think of, reading whatever I could. Like, how many books did I read this year? Did I read 30 this year? Did I read 40 books this year? Did I do enough this year for these clients? Did I do that? But what about you though? Do you know how to love yourself? Are you the best version of yourself? Like, those were the things that started hitting me. And I'm like, why am I asking these questions now? Why wasn't I prepared for this when I became a therapist? And a lot of it comes from, being a Black woman, I think that we oftentimes will take on a role where we feel like we're a utility anyway, like that I'm supposed to be doing and making things happen for people. I'm supposed to be a fixer. And that's why I kind of alluded in the beginning to the wounded healer. Like, but I remember even in seminary having to read that book, The Wounded Healer by Henry Nouwen. And just this idea that like you can be very much so be wounded and avail yourself to everyone and help everyone with what they need. But what I've learned in therapy is that it teaches you to hold yourself accountable too, because you cannot do this work in a very honest way without taking close inventory within yourself. And so after last year, I was like, life is short. How do I want to live the next few years of my life? Like, it's 43 then, I'm 44 now. Like, and so now when I tell clients to do things, now I think to myself, do you apply these things? Whereas that was not something I thought about before. I was just thinking about like how I can be helpful and how I can help them heal through things. But it's like the healing also needs to take place in the source that's providing the healing. So that was an important moment for me. And so I think, working out is that, getting back into writing again is that for me, grounding myself and trying to attend my online church service as much as possible is important for me now, like just so that I can be able to unveil spiritually, unveil physically and emotionally with all the things that I do hold, because there are things that people will tell me that they've never told anyone. And I know that. And so because of that, I'm like, I need to give them my best self. It's more than just the way I'm presenting. It's also like, I want to be my best self, not just performing it, but being that too. So yeah, that was a tough lesson for me.
And it also leading by example.
Yeah.
And I feel, clients, when you get the ones that's not just there trying to have that person to talk to, but they genuinely see your genuine and authentic self and see she genuinely wants to help me. And they can see, okay, well, she seems like she's doing that for herself. She knows what she's talking about. But now you can really give that example of, okay, I experienced this. And I know as therapists, it's not everything you can disclose to your clients, but
Yeah.
saying you're human and you're a woman, and I try to be everything to everybody, just how you're trying to do that for your
Yeah.
family and yourself. And it's kind of hard. Like you said, we as women, especially women of color, we neglect ourselves and we put everybody and everything first.
We do. We do. It's almost like it's encoded in our DNA. And it also brings forth these feelings of unworthiness, like feeling
Mm,
like we're not good enough or that we don't deserve certain things, or there's certain things we need to do to be able to have certain things. And so, yeah, like I want to dispel that, like I want to get rid of that, because there's so much more in us. I want us to be able to experience what it means to be soft, and have permission to be soft, and not looking at being soft as a weakness or being
right.
vulnerable as a weakness. Like when I think about Brene Brown and like the work that she has, and she talks about like the importance of this vulnerability is like the rawest and the most, real and authentic thing you can ever participate in. Like it sounds so good and it sounds so beautiful, but that's really scary for women of color, particularly Black women. Like what people don't talk about when you look up the definition of vulnerable, it also means that you're susceptible to danger. Like
Right.
that's how we see vulnerability. It makes us vigilant or hyper vigilant. It doesn't bring forth the comfort that you would think that it's supposed to in our humanity, because if I see myself as a utility, I'm not looking at the humanity in myself, And so like luckily for Brene Brown, she has the luxury of being a white woman to be able to talk about these issues of vulnerability, but that's not one that we can readily go into. We have to first see like what are the barriers in life that have prevented me from being able to even experience this thing, and then I can dive into what it means to be vulnerable, because I understand that I actually deserve to, and I actually owe it to myself to do that. So it's been a hard lesson, but what I love about it is that even though it's been hard, it's still been possible. So I'm really grateful for that lesson. It's possible for Black women to be able to have free lives. It's possible for us to be able to be authentic. It's possible for us to have peace, and it's, I just want us to be able to know that we can have that and to own that.
And it is something we definitely need. I know for myself and a lot of women, it is if you we I know for me personally, I didn't want to be looked at as weak.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be looked at as strong. And as I'm, the last 3 years for me, I'm like, I don't want to be looked at as strong. I want to be looked at as it's a lot. It's a lot of weight to carry when you're that strong woman.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of we as women, we have to do it. We have to function through depression. We have to function to make sure kids are taken care of, the bills are taken care of, that we're taken care of. And it was that challenge for me because it was, oh, well, I don't want to. And I had people saying to me, you're strong, you'll be okay. And I'm like, no, I'm okay because I have no other choice but to be okay.
Yeah.
And I think we as women, we have to learn that, you know what, it's okay when you're not strong. It's okay when you have moments of weakness and you have moments of breaking down and crying because it's too much to carry. And it's okay to allow somebody else, like yourself, a therapist, to come and show us, you know what, we need to break this wall down because this wall is destroying you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's exactly that when you're talking about it's okay to cry. I was thinking about, because we were talking about the vagus nerve before, like you had mentioned. And in all honesty, like when we cry, like we activate our sympathetic nervous system. That part of our body is responsible for being able to help us get to a more relaxed state so that we can experience peace. And the tears are intricate because they help to get rid of toxins that don't belong. So there's value in the crying experience. But if I'm taught that I'm supposed to be strong all the time, I'm literally holding this in my bodies. And this is why so many Black women are at risk of being susceptible to autoimmune diseases because of these things that we're holding, and we're not feeling like we have permission, like we're associating strength with being able to be like stern and emotionless. And that's not how that works. Like, we have been given this gift of crying, although maybe people may not look at it as a gift. It is a gift to be able to help us to regulate, and for us to be able to be reflective, and to pause, and to be able to evaluate certain things. And so I always tell people, if you need to cry, cry, and cry often. Get yourself a little corner. There have been times where I've had to close the door, turn off the lights, get down in fetal pose, and just start crying. It's like, you have to, even if you don't want anybody to see it, that's fine. But the comfort that comes from that, with how your body is able to regulate, can be really powerful in your healing process. And also recognizing that healing isn't just something that is when you feel better. Like, healing is also about feeling everything, before I get better, and so if you can endure that process, then you can be free and have peace.
I love what you just said, because I think people look at healing as it's a snap of the finger. Oh, everything is good, but have you dealt with the other stuff? You just dealt with the surface stuff, but have you dealt with the ingredients that makes the cake?
Absolutely. It's exactly that. But I think that's just kind of a lie that we've been taught, when it comes to the healing process. Like, what I was talking about, and I'm telling on myself, but I was like literally talking to a client about growing up in the 80s. I'm an 80s baby. So growing up in the 80s and 90s, like, we didn't initially have access to the internet or cell phones and things like that. So we would ride our bikes, right? And so we were riding a bike through the neighborhood. We go and we skin our knees sometime, right? But we didn't stop riding our bikes, right? We still would get back
You
up
got
on the
up and
bike and
going.
keep it moving. But before, when that scar, that wound starts bleeding, right? This is the beginning of how your wound is going to heal, right? Because once I get home, mama's going to put the alcohol or whatever else is necessary on there, right? Now we got Neosporin, all that stuff, put that on there, right? You might cover it up with a Band-Aid for a few days. But the moment you start getting the balm ready for the healing of the wound, you're already in the process of healing. And the thing that's so interesting too is that during that time, it's difficult to bend your knee, right? It starts to aggravate it, right? I'm feeling the pain of this wound, of this scar, but it's still in healing process. It's not just when it scabs. It's not when it just leaves a scar. It was from the moment that I start having attention to it that I'm in the process of healing. So those are things that I want people to recognize, is that sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. That still doesn't mean you're not healing. It just means that this is a intricate part of it, kind of like how the caterpillar goes into the chrysalis. Like, you gotta go through that chrysalis, through that painful and isolating experience in order for us to heal properly.
I love that analogy, because I don't think people really look at it like that. And it is a process, because we want it so quick and so fast, and it takes time. It may take years. It's not an overnight thing. And the fear of us allowing ourselves to go through the process and doing the work of healing, it's not pretty at
No,
all.
it's not pretty. It's not. And if you want it to be pretty, then it's going to be performative, right?
Right, right.
It's not going to be. It's going to be messy sometimes, but there's still beauty in the messiness. And I think that that's what people miss. It's kind of like looking at an abstract painting. Like, it could look a mess, in all honesty, but to somebody else, they could look at it and say, this is absolutely beautiful. And so, can I deal with the messiness and know that there's still an aesthetic that's attached to that messiness? And I choose to err on the side that there is still one there, because I've seen it, and I've seen how people have transformed in real time. due to these really unbearable situations that they've been through that they've overcome, you know?
Love it. I love it. So, as we mentioned, you're a mother. You're a mother to the most handsome little guy that looks just like you.
Yes, he does. I spit him out.
You literally did. Talk about motherhood. Um, and his diagnosis. It's your story to tell. I'm gonna let you talk about that.
Oh my goodness, that's such a loaded question. So there's so much to say about my son. There's just so much to say. To begin with, I got pregnant during COVID. I was one of those people that said that would never happen to me. I had managed to live my whole life up until I was 39 with no babies. So I was like, that's just not gonna happen for me, But you got cold during COVID. Anyway, and so here he is. I always wanted to be a mom, but as I had gotten older, I had accepted that, oh, I'm just going to be the cool auntie, like all of my siblings, even though I'm the eldest child, I was the last one to have children. All of my siblings had already had their kids. And I had gotten to the place around 39 that I had accepted that just wasn't going to be in the cards for me. But once I had Noah, I was just so overwhelmed, and I felt so incredibly blessed because I had prayed for so long to have a child. So it was like God had answered my prayer, and not even just that. But when I was pregnant with Noah, I also really solidified my faith in that experience because I was given the gift of speaking in tongues during my pregnancy with Noah, which was really powerful for me because my parents were Pentecostal. And so growing up under that kind of tradition, there was an expectation that you speak in tongues. And if you don't, you're not saved. So I dealt with a lot of insecurity around that growing up. And so by the time I got into my late 30s, I just had accepted that that's just not going to be a part of my story. But it was a beautiful gift that God has given to me and I still have. And I'm grateful for that. So I say all that to say, like, Noah came very divinely to me. So that's the first thing. And so when you're a parent, you think about the life you want for your child. The plans that you might have, like, I want them to be a good person and I want them to have good character and I want them to maybe do this or do that, or I just want a healthy kid. You hear that all the time. Like, I just want a kid that's healthy. Like, I just want a healthy child and all those things. And so, going through the process of pregnancy, for me, I had to deal with domestic violence. During that time. So there was a lot that was going on with that. So I was very stressed out being pregnant and being alone because during COVID, you couldn't even have your partner go to the sonogram with you, like during COVID. So I did all of that alone. I did a lot of it alone. And so all I had was I read a lot. So I would read aloud or I would listen to books and I would like talk to Noah a lot while I was pregnant with him. But that Noah was like my companion. So, there was that. And so when he was 2, that was a really exciting time because I got to see more of his personality, but I also started seeing that he was really gifted in some things. Like I started noticing that that he knew how to write and he knew how to read. And people are always impressed by that. Like, oh, you must have been on a path. You taught your son how to read. I'm like, I actually didn't. I can't take credit for the womb. He learned. He knew how to sound out words and he knows how to read. And he's now almost 5. He'll be 5 in January. And he's known how to read since he was 2. He knows how to write. He knew how to count to 100. He knew all his alphabets like at 2. So it was like, this is an exciting time. But what I also noticed is that my son he wasn't really communicating verbally. And that was one of the things where it's like around 2, like it was like people were like, it's not really that big of a deal, like kind of watch it, but but that was always in the back of my mind that like something's a little off. Like he's so gifted, but he's not really talking. He understands, but he's not really talking. So my partner and I, we decided that we wanted to prepare. So we ended up having him be a part of the infant and toddlers program through the state of Maryland. They have it through the county. And so that provides you with a speech pathologist as well as a special educator. And so we wanted to start early just in case. But let me just be very honest and direct. I did not want my child to have autism. I felt that he did, but I didn't know for sure. But I didn't want that because I was like, life is so hard already. Right. Being Black, life is so hard. Like his father is already not active in his life. Like this is a lot, like for a child, And so my hope and my wish was kind of like, I just wanted like the normal kid. And I didn't want to have to be confronted with anything that was opposite of that. And this is just me being very honest about that. It's hard sometimes because when I go somewhere, I have to consider so many things. I have to consider, is the lighting appropriate? Is the music too loud? Are there too many people in here? Is he going to have a meltdown? Is he going to throw anything? Is he going to hit someone? Like those are all the things I'm thinking about when I go into a space, and I just never wanted that for me, But I will say this is that there's been preparation throughout this process in more ways than I can say, One of the first things that I do want to share is that there was when we finally decided to get his autism diagnosis, we had went to Myrtle Beach and my son was exhibiting all kinds of aggressive behaviors. And so, of course, in the field that I work in, when a Black boy is exhibiting aggressive behaviors, they're very quick to want to diagnose him with like oppositional defiant disorder, which is the terrible diagnosis to give to a Black and brown child, because oftentimes that's kind of like how the trajectory of what prison looks like for them, right? Death looks like for them. So I didn't want that. So when I saw that, I was really concerned. There was a point in time during the trip where I was able to go to the pool, and my sister had came to help me. So she was interacting with Noah, and there was this woman that ended up sitting at the table with me and my sister, and she just, kind of stayed there. And she started speaking life into me, which doesn't really happen very often. Oftentimes, I don't know if it's something I give off, but people like to disclose like their life to me. Maybe it's like my therapeutic energy. I don't know, but it's just something that happens often, and I don't mind it. But at that point in time, I was really down because I had seen all these behaviors, and I'm like, when we get back, we have to do all these things. We have to get testing and all these things. And so I was already discouraged. And like this woman, like just was observing Noah's behavior. And it was like, Noah was kind of calm. He was like within the water, and Noah means peace. So like he was within the water doing his own thing. She's like, I was watching your son. He was just sitting here, and he just seems like he's so well behaved. And like my eyes just got really watery. And I was like looking at her, and I was like, that's really, thank you for saying that, because it just hasn't really been an easy week, with him, And so she looked at me, and she just started saying things that there's no way that she would have known. Like she started saying things like, you hit these crossroads where you go to places, people start making judgments because they don't understand, or your child might respond in a way and everybody's staring at you, wondering if you're doing the right things. And you start to question whether you're a good parent and things like that. But she's like, by the time that he's 10 or 11, a shift will happen. Like, because she's like, he reminds me of my Nathan. So she started talking about her son, who had experienced similar things that my child was experiencing currently. And when she said that, I just like started like, the waterworks just started coming down. She was like really like speaking life into me. And so I kept that, I was very mindful about that. And when I tell you everything that she had told me, the things that I would face, I literally was facing that in real time. Like the daycare was like, oh, well, if you don't hurry up and get a diagnosis for him, then he's going to be out of here. Not having providers that were consistent with ABA, all these things. Like, but before that, like once he got his diagnosis with autism, the psychologist said, by the time he's 10 or 11, Noah will be a totally different kid. He was like, he's like, I'm confident. He was like, Noah is brilliant. And this barrier that he has right now is going to be difficult, but it won't be forever. And that was really helpful to me because, as I told you, I was, when I was pregnant with him, I was gifted with this gift of tongues. And I literally remember one time getting down on my knees and I said, God, I will give you this gift back just for my son to talk to me. As much as I've always wanted, I prayed for that gift my whole life. And I said, I will give all of that back just to have my son to be able to talk to me, really, and his communication has gotten better. Like it's leaps and bounds in comparison to where he was when he was 2. But it is hard being a autism parent, because you want to make sure your child is safe and you want to make sure that people treat your child okay and well. And you want to make sure that people don't make judgments or judge him, because, he's struggling, and things like that. So that was the pivotal moment. But another pivotal moment, which really helped change me, was when he was in daycare still. They had a little Christmas pageant, and you had all these kids that were like staying in their place and they were following directions from their providers and their teachers. And Noah was just running around, dancing around. I was like trying to wonder, I was like, please don't knock into somebody. And I had to fight here at this place, like, because knocked into somebody. And I remember just being mortified and embarrassed. And I remember like my partner, like, I think she could tell that I was upset. And so she took him. And I remember after we had dropped him back off at the house, I ran out real quick to run an errand or something. And I looked up at the sky and I said, God, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? And this was like before the autism diagnosis. I just wanted to name this moment because this moment is important. It's a very human moment. But I literally heard an audible voice say to me, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And that was a pivotal moment for me because I know now more so than ever that Noah was given to me because of the things I struggle with. So remember I told you, this is how this comes full circle. Remember I told you have these ideas and thoughts about who your child is going to be and what they're going to do. And if they're going to have good character, they're going to be a good person, But also what we don't consider as parents or what we don't consider as providers is that there is something that this child is supposed to teach you about you too. And what Noah has taught me is that I was sweating the small stuff entirely too much. What he's teaching me is that I'm me. Like Noah is unapologetically himself. He never tries to be anybody else. Like where, like I said, as Black women, it's easy for us to be in this performative kind of place. He teaches me that it's important to be authentic and it's important to be real. And it's important to not put on a show for other people, not to be impressive and not to fall in line because everybody else is falling in line. So I'm just very grateful for him. So although I will say that there have been times that the experience has been heavy, there's been a lot of value in me being able to touch into my own self-identity as a result of this. And it's made me more compassionate and more patient and more understanding. And I'm grateful for that because I know that my son feels loved by me. I know he feels that. And for me, that's amazing. But what I've been sharing this too is that because you love your child doesn't mean that this is not a hard thing. It's really hard. And to be able to have consistent people is really hard. To figure out who your village is really hard. Um, but when I look at everything full circle, I wouldn't trade this experience for anything. Like Noah has been the biggest blessing. And I always say that I am better personally. And remember that version of ourselves, the best version of ourselves. I feel like I'm the best version of myself that I know of myself to be since I've become his mom. So yeah, that's the story of Noah. Like this energetic, really smart, brilliant kid that doesn't say too much, but what he does say is important. And yeah, I just love him so much.
I love everything that you said. So, what would you say to parents? Because, I work with a lot of parents and their kids, and I can definitely see the guilt that some parents have where they allow their kids to do any and everything because that guilt is there. But the reality is, you're setting your child up for failure because you're not preparing them for the real world, especially if it's a kid of color, where they immediately will throw them into special education and are they, are quick to, okay, this kid is violent, let's put him in juvie, let's put him in jail.
Yeah.
What would you say to parents about letting that guilt go and just showing up as a parent because they start to put them in a box. And for me, I don't think that's right. Yeah, your kid has some difference, but at the end of the day, your kid is still a kid.
Yeah. I guess what I had to do with that is I had to like not make it about myself.
Mm,
Like I had to take myself out of it. Like I had to look at Noah and say, what is my greatest extension of love to him? And my greatest extension of love to Noah is acceptance.
mm,
So I had to accept that this is who he is. And I had to accept that this is his process. And, as a therapist, and I don't think I would have known this if I had not been a therapist, but, in therapy, we're always taught that earlier interventions are the most effective for results. So I knew that no matter what was going on with him, even though I wasn't well versed in autism, although I know more now because I've been reading more books about it, but that was the key. It was like, we have to do these early interventions to prevent these things that we fear. But if I'm in denial about my son's condition, and I like to say that it's a condition, I don't like to say disorders. And that's not just with this, it's with anything in the DSM-5. I think that that's the biggest detriment. But then again, the DSM-5 was never written for us in the first place, to be honest. So what disorder indicates is that there's a problem that needs
right.
to be fixed. And so that's problematic for me, really. So I don't really prefer diagnoses. I always look at everything as a condition. And I tell my clients that I'll say, they will call it this, but I say that it's a condition because I believe that conditions can be healed. Even if it's healed on a continuum, I believe that it can be healed. So I believe that the earlier interventions are necessary for his success and for him to be able to navigate this world. So I say that the moment you start sensing anything that's off, or even hearing from other people, like, what's going on with him? I noticed that he's doing this. Don't be so quick to be defensive, because that's also an indicator of your own insecurity of what you're fearing. Usually when people project out is because they fear it too.
Right.
So it's kind of like I had to accept that, like, there are some things that are different. And so what does that mean? So it didn't hurt to do the early intervention. Like, obviously, it led us to this point now, where now he's navigating this now instead of navigating it at 7 or at 8 or at 10, because by the time you're at 7 years old, now you're dealing with the more intricate part of your brain. You're dealing with the left hemisphere of your brain, where you're looking at logic and reason. he's still in these processes where he's still in the right hemisphere, all about the emotions and all that. And that's a lovely place to be. So I want to make sure that he's prepared for everything. So even if it means that it is a place of guilt for me, which I still struggle with at times, and I have to recognize that there is a difference between the guilt and the shame. Like the guilt is when you are a perpetrator of something, but shame is a deep feeling of humiliation. So I have to also think about that. Like which one am I leaning towards? Am I feeling shame right now, or am I feeling guilt right now? Am I in fact the perpetrator? Am I in fact the cause? Or do I feel shame because of the systemic structures that teach us that children that have disabilities or that are not able-bodied are insufficient? Is that something that I've been taught? Have I subscribed to that teaching? And what needs to be dismantled from that? And so it really takes a lot of self-inventory and self-reflection and your willingness to do so. So it's not even just like, I'm just looking at him and like, I need to be accepting of him. It's also, I have to look intricately at myself and my willingness to meet him too.
I love all of that because it's true. And like I said, I work with a lot of parents, and you can definitely see and hear the guilt. Well, it's my fault that my child is like this. Is it's something I didn't do right. Maybe I didn't eat right. Maybe I did this. Maybe I did that. And if we so focus on those things, it takes away from pouring into your child and releasing that guilt, because kids can feel that.
They can.
Yeah.
They can feel all of it. They can feel the nervous energy. They can feel like when they can try it, like, okay, like, let me see what I can get away with. They can feel when there's an insecurity there, because again, like they're operating from that emotional side. And so of course, with children with autism, their sensory awareness is heightened. So they feel things more intricately than we may. And like what I've learned in this journey is that I thought that we always had like 5 senses. I've learned in this journey that we have over 21 senses. So we have senses that are in accordance to our balance. We have senses that are in accordance to time and how we see time. We have senses in accordance to our body temperature, So I think that those are things that this is broadened my mind with so many things. So I could be, he could be hyper focused on something. And here I am, I could be humming, just doing my own little thing, not recognizing that the way that I'm humming, he may hear that completely differently, like in his mind. And that could be a distraction, or it could be a threat in some kind of way, or the cadence of it could be anxiety provoking. Those are things that I did not consider, before, but those are things I consider now, like what kind of music I'm playing, and like, how is that impacting you? What kind of show is on, and the voice, like there's sometimes with preaching, with church, like he loves the music with church, but when the preacher starts hooping and hollering, that's a lot for him. So usually around that time, it's like, okay, we know you need to go back to your room and do something, because he'll be like, no, because to him, right, it's like you're elevating your voice, it's like you're yelling. So it's like that has been a process, but he loves music though. So I love that he loves that. And so I try to lean into the things that he's really gifted in, and celebrate those things, because those are important to him. And then I also try to challenge him too, because I don't want him to ever feel limited just because he has autism. So those are things to be mindful of as well.
I love all of this. And, like I told you before, it's so many parents who don't know what steps to take, or if they talk to a doctor or somebody and they're not really knowledgeable in it, that is, okay, well, the doctor knows more than me, so I have to follow it. But you should follow your intuition, do the research. Just do not rely 100% on a provider. Do the research.
Absolutely. Do the research and be selective, especially if you're Black or brown or indigenous. Do your research on whoever your physician is. You want someone, that's going to treat you with dignity and with respect, And so sometimes that person needs to look like you. I mean, not always, but sometimes they do, So always, like, if you feel something that's off, trust that is divine wisdom, divine intuition. So there are times like those are things that I look for too, with any provider that he has, whether it's his psychologist, whether it's his occupational therapist, whether it's his teacher, I want to make sure that like he's in good hands. That's important to me, especially as he's learning how to become more verbal in his process.
And I would also say, look at how your kid responds to these providers.
Absolutely. And I do consider that. Like, I do ask Noah, because Noah, like, even if he's not able to communicate everything, he knows how to say yes or no. So any provider that we've had, whether it's through babysitting, whether it is through anything else, I'll ask him regularly, do you like this person? Is this person nice to you? Like, yes or no? And he will tell me yes or no, And so I appreciate that. Like, he's able to communicate those things to me. Like, yes, I have to bring it out of him, but I'm grateful that he's able to do that. Like, that's amazing for me, because there are some people that have children that have autism that are not able to communicate verbally at all. They can communicate in other ways, maybe non-verbally, but they can't. And so then they have to navigate all of that, So I'm grateful that I don't have to navigate as intricately in that way. But yeah, it's important to see what the vibe is for them too, and trust that too.
All right. So, question, how do you balance motherhood, yourself, business, and relationship?
Giving all of it their personal time. That's what I've learned. Like, this road to motherhood, I feel like it's like getting on a roller coaster. It's like, you ready for this ride? Put your seatbelts on. Sometimes we're gonna be going up the hill. Sometimes we're gonna go do a drop. Sometimes we're gonna be doing a start. We're doing all the things. Motherhood is unpredictable. So you just gotta be like ride or die about it. That's the best way to explain it. So I try to spend, intentional time with him. I'm very affectionate with Noah. Like, I like to play with him, and, occasionally, if he has good behavior, I'll take him to his little favorite place. It's like an indoor playground that he likes around here, and we'll do that. But I try to have intentional time with him. And when I'm in the middle of something, like, I try to put that to the side so that I can be with him, because that's important. He's more important than the work that I do. Like, he's my baby, I need to make sure that he has the things that he needs too. So like, I've had to learn how to prioritize certain things. And so when it comes to myself, of course, the gym is always a part of it. Like, even though I was sick this past weekend, I still made myself go to the gym. I was like, I need to sweat this cold out. And I'm like, nose dripping and everything. I'm like, let's go and run. That's the kind of person I am. Like, I just, I can't be stagnant. I've just never been a stagnant person. So it's like, for me, it's like, let's go, like, let's get it 30 minutes in here, like getting the cardio in, and then we can go, after that. So it's like, I can do that. So it's just about being intentional and not making excuses, playing like whatever hip hop music that I need to play to get me going and get myself centered. And there's that. And then with, the relationship is like, being more intentional about dating. There was a point in time where we didn't have that. We didn't date anymore. And then we were fighting, like, you have to, I think what people forget is that every relationship that you have, the core of it needs to be treated in the way that you value your friendships. Like, I tell people that all the time. Like, for some reason, there's like a distinction. Like, no, that's your partner, so that's different than your friend. No, like, your friend is the person that you unveil everything to, right? Your friend knows things about you that nobody else knows, right? Your friend is the person you feel safe with, right? It's like your confidant, it's the same. And so that's the same way that operates. And I know this may sound weird, but people will check in with their relationship at times, right? And say like, where are we right now? What could I do better? You need to be asking those questions in your friendships too. You know what I mean? And even when Noah gets older, I will ask him those questions the same way I ask my clients. Like, what could be better in therapy? What could be helpful in therapy? I want to know for him, what could I do to be a better mom? What is something that you need? What is something that you notice that I do that isn't helpful? Those are the questions I'm going to ask. Like, I'm always on the quest of becoming the best version of myself. And that means that you have to have a willingness to receive criticism, receive the thing you don't want to hear.
Right.
And I'm willing to hear that because I want to be different. I don't want to be the same. I don't want someone telling me, oh, girl, you're the same way that you was 10 years ago. Okay, maybe some people want to hear that. Like, you haven't changed a bit. Now, I hope that as far as age, that I look the same way that I looked 10 years ago. That's the only thing I want to hear. Like, oh yeah, girl, you you still look 25. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll take that. But no, I don't want to hear that, oh girl, you are just the same. I want somebody to be able to say that, like, I see life differently because of you. I see myself differently because of you. And I want to be able to in turn say that about the people that I love and care about too. So the journey is always about becoming better, but never in a place where you feel like you're not enough. Just like that, the way of getting better is always to work at it and to perfect it. Not to be a perfectionist, but to be of good character and to value your temple and to care for yourself in the ways that are necessary so that you can leave the mark that's necessary on this world that you want to leave. And for me, I want people to remember that Dereka was a person that didn't give up. I want people to remember that Dereka was a person that actively tried to get better. I want people to remember that I'm a person of good faith and a good character and good heart. Like, those are things that are really important to me. That's more important to me than any car that I drive, any place that I live, any money that I have. Like, that's more important. I don't care about any of those things. And my partner talks about that a lot with me. Like, you really don't care about tangible things. I'm like, no, I don't, because they're not important and they can't come with me. So none of it can come with me. So they don't have any value to me. The only thing that has value to me is like, how am I as a person? How do I present as a person? And what lives have I touched in this experience? And so, yeah, that's how I see the world, and that's how I see myself.
That's beautiful because most people are afraid of growth. They're afraid of being different. They may lose a friend, they may lose family. But ultimately, where is your heart and how is God seeing you? That's the most valuable and important thing ever.
Yeah, it is. And I know I'm not perfect, but I want to be a good steward of that, So I do take it seriously. I take my relationship with God very seriously, and it has not always been sunshine and rainbows. There's been times that God and I have gone toe to toe, and I'm like, I don't even want to talk to you for a minute. Like, we're not even cool anymore. Like, we're done. There have been moments like that too, but we always get back on track, we always figure it out. And, yeah, I'm just grateful that I feel like because I have that divine resource that has helped to guide me, it's helped to center me, it's helped to ground me over the years, even in times where I didn't know what direction I was going in. Like, I've always found a place to fall back into, and so I'm really, really, really grateful for that.
One thing I tell my friends, because I've been there where me and God's like toe to toe, and I'm like, all right, just yeah, I'm done with you.
Yeah,
And they'll say, that's God. I said, guess what? God already predestined all of this was gonna happen. And He knows
absolutely.
the time, the date, the minute, the hour that I'm coming back to Him like everybody else. So am I
Absolutely.
concerned about that? Not at all, because He already knows.
Yeah, I wasn't concerned either. Like, I'm like, I don't really care. Like, again, it's the relationship, right? Like, we have moments in our lives where we get mad at people that we love, that we're friends with, or family with, or a partner. Like, we get mad. I don't want to have nothing to do with you right now. Leave me alone. Like, I need some time to myself. We do that with them, but God is the most important relationship that we have in our lifetime. And we can't have a moment of disappointment with God. We
Yeah.
can't say that I'm angry at you right now. Like, I feel like that's part of what makes my relationship with God authentic. And not everybody has to share in that belief, but that's just what I believe. And I think that's what has helped me to go back to God every time, because I didn't have to put on a show to say that, oh yeah, I just bear all the burdens, and
Right.
like, I'm blessed and highly favored, but I'm like drowning,
Right.
like when I'm not good, I say I'm not good. Like, I'm not in a good place. Like, I'm not feeling it right now. Like, I don't feel my best right now. I feel inadequate right now, but I understand that, some people in life have been hurt. So that kind of vulnerability is very difficult for them. But with my relationship with God, that kind of vulnerability is not difficult. He knows what time it is with me.
Which is, that so true, because we act like we're trying to hide something from him. I thought he already know what we thinking. He already knows.
Yes, he
He
knows. He
knows
knows everything.
everything.
He
So
knows everything.
he wouldn't be God. But
Yeah. And I'm glad that he knows everything, because there's some things I would never tell anyone that he knows.
very, very true. So tell us about your book and where people can find it.
Absolutely. So the book is a long time coming. I was working on most of it like around COVID and after COVID. It's just a compilation of poems. In fact, I think I have it right here.
Okay.
It's a compilation. This is what it looks like. It's and this is the back. It's got my picture. But it's called God is Within Her, She Shall Not Fall. It's from the book of
Mm.
Psalms. It's one of my favorite scriptures. But yeah, I really I never thought it was going to be a book initially. I just went through a really hard time in my life where I went through this divorce and I didn't know what to do. Like, I just thought like my world was over. Like, and so I just started, I needed a way to get it all out. And at the time, I did not consider therapy at the time. Like, I was trying to be I was trying to be a therapist at the time, and I just didn't consider it. And so I was like, I need to get back into writing, because I used to write a lot when I was a kid. And so then I just started compiling things. And so there's this company called Bookleaf Publishing, and every few years they'll do like a writing challenge, and then they'll help you kind of like really have your own book. Like, they help you to like compile it and everything. And so I did that, and that's how this work came together. But the poems have themes about heartbreak, about love, about spirituality, about sexuality, about Noah. I have a whole poem about Noah that I wrote before he was
Mhm.
born. That's in there. It also talks about loss. I have a poem about a child that I ended up losing. I got pregnant before, and I lost that child, and then Noah. So like, yeah, so there's all these like little moving parts, but it's a good way if you want to get to know me. It's a good way. So if you're interested in the book, it is found on Barnes and Noble, or you can find it on Amazon as well. And so, yeah, it's like my baby. It's like my first work.
All right. I love that. So, what advice, recommendations, suggestions would you give women who right now we're dealing with an extremely hard time in our world? What would you say to them as a mother, as a partner, as a therapist, as an entrepreneur, and just as a woman of color? What would you say to another woman of color during this time?
Um, I'm going to read it in my dedication. So my dedication I dedicated my book to Black women. That's where, So this is what I would say to them. It is my prayer that you will find yourself in this book. Don't utilize your magic as a detriment to be superhuman, but use it allowing your truth to be fully known. Remember, being magical is your divine right to be free. So that's what I would say. I would say, be free, be authentic, be real, be vulnerable, be open, be soft. Like those are things like everything that stereotypically has been used to weaponize you, do the opposite.
Mm.
And also recognizing that peace does not come easy. Like a few years ago, because I do a lot of wordplay with my clients, we looked up the word peace, and peace by definition means freedom from disturbance. That doesn't mean that there aren't disturbances. It just means that I'm free from them. So find whatever your peace is and follow that. So if it is health, do what you got to do to take care of yourself. Exercise, go to the gym. That is the best thing that you can do for your body, really, other than eating well. Like, go for a walk, clear your mind, be in nature, like, do what fits spiritually, meditate if necessary. And for those who sometimes people are like, well, if they have a Christian background, sometimes they're like, I don't know about meditation. But I'm like, you guys, meditation is in the Bible like over 20 times. Like, so it's okay. We can do meditation or we can pray. Yeah. All of them have similar effects, so I would encourage that whatever you need to ground yourself spiritually. So those are the things I would tell them to ask themselves. What do you need mentally that you're not getting? What do you need emotionally that you're not getting? What do you need spiritually that you're not getting? What are you not getting physically? And what are you not getting relationally? Mm. Those are like those components are so important. People always talk about mind, body, spirit, and all this stuff, but relationally is important too, because people also impact who we become and how we identify. So how are people playing in my life? What kind of friends do I have in my life? What kind of family members do I have in my life? Who encourages, who lets me down? Like, these are important things. Like, who am I surrounding myself with as good influences for me? Or am I just the safe haven for everybody else? Am I just the strong friend for everyone else? Which most Black women are. Mm-hmm. So those are things I want us to consider. Like, who am I holistically, or who do I want to be holistically? That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
So where can people find you, and what is it? I know you talked about helping other women who are entering into the therapy phase. So tell them what you're looking for and how you can
support. Yeah, absolutely. So right now I contract through a company called Uplift Technologies. But I also have a private practice called Remedy Holistic Services, which I'm very proud of. It's been up and running since 2022, November of 2022. And so I love, it's my baby and all of that. So currently right now, if you need to find me, you can find me on Psychology Today. I'm also on ZocDoc. Didn't know I was on there. Oh. They put me on there. So if you need to find me on there, you can find me on there as well. But right now I'm just currently, because I just recently received my credentials in the beginning of the year for supervision, I'm looking for supervisees that are LG, so licensed graduates, professional counselors, or if you're an intern, I am willing to work with you. So if you need to contact me, please feel free. You can look at Remedy Holistic Services through Psychology Today, and you can send me a direct message, or you can call me. They have a phone number that links to my phone, and you can call me on there as well.
Okay. I want to thank you for being vulnerable. I want to thank you for being transparent. I want to thank you for sharing your story, because so many women are so afraid of being judged, of sharing their story, or somebody's going to talk about them. And one thing I say, people don't talk about you when you're doing nothing at all, and if you're doing something. So
Yeah, absolutely.
get the help, get the services, get the resources that's needed. It's too many great people out here like yourself who
Hmm.
experience real life situations. And I think when people go into therapy, they think therapists and coaches have this superhuman power that our lives are perfect. Guess what? Our lives aren't perfect. You just heard from a therapist, a Black woman who has gone through things. So please, if you need help, get a therapist, get a coach,
Yes.
talk to
Yeah.
somebody because your friends ain't licensed and equipped.
No, they're not. I mean, it's not to say that we don't have some people that we can share some things with, but when we're dealing with what it means to go in spiritually, remember we talked about that earlier, like it's a spiritual process, you need a healer to help you through that. Okay, so that's really important. So I always tell people, like, just like we need doctors, just like we need dentists, just like we need podiatrists, just like we need like ear doctors, like we got all the things that we need. We also need somebody to help us take care of ourselves holistically. And so that's what therapy is supposed to do. So yeah, go for it.
Go for it, especially during these times. Get the help that's necessary.
Yeah,
Don't try
especially during,
to
yeah,
navigate it by yourself. So
yeah,
please get the help that's needed. Can you show your book one more time where people can find it?
absolutely. This is it. It's got
So
a phoenix on it.
I
So that is.
see. So go get her book. Check her out on Psychology Today. Until next time, this is Mind, Health, and Wellness with LaJune. You can find me at lajune.singleton.com. Thank you again, ma'am.
Thank you.